Hey kids, you guys like anime? Do you like watching anime whenever, wherever you want on the go? Then follow me and I'll take you to a wonderful place called Crunchyroll Studios. Yeah, let's go! I actually meant let's go to High Dive, kids, yay! Alright, fuck this, let's just go to Netflix. Hey everyone, it's me, Dula, and I know it's been a while since my last upload. I've had a couple of personal setbacks that I'll go over at the end of the video, but for now, we have a lot to go over for today's topic. And all of it surrounds everyone's favorite American dubbing studio / streaming service, Crunchyroll. Seems like 2024 has been quite the controversial year for the people at good old Crunchyroll. Every other month I feel like I see or hear something they've done to anger the user base. From removing the comment section from their sites and app, the CEO going into interviews saying the most ridiculous shit possible about anime, or in their latest scandal involving a VA accusing individuals in the company of stealing his mail and handing it out to staff members.
Oh, that was horrible! Your wish is horrible! You're horrible! You're an irredeemable monster!
Oh, what took you so long, idiot?
And that right there will be the main focus of today's video. I'll be using a couple of other content creators throughout this video to aid me in some of my information and points that I'll be making, because I won't lie, a bunch of people both on the side of anime fans and YouTubers kind of jumped the gun when presenting / talking about this situation. Let it be known that I always try to stay as transparent as possible when creating these type of videos and any reviews I go forward. Now then, without further delay, let's go into the actual vid. On October 25th, David Wald, an English voice actor who you probably better know as Tetsu from My Hero, Polly from One Piece, and arguably his most well-known and beloved role, Gajir from Fairy Tail, took to X, posting this tweet explaining that over the course of 5 years he has not received any of your letters or gifts that you've sent to him. He learned that some individuals in Crunchyroll were opening his mail, throwing away the letters, and handing the items inside to staff. He then added on to his earlier post within the same day with a somewhat cheeky but very interesting post expressing several worrying accusations about the possible conditions and treatment at Crunchyroll office he worked at.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Wow, already just from those two posts you can see and understand why so many people on X came out to support him. Tons of likes, retweets, comments to showcase their love for his work and frustration with Crunchy. Now, to be fair, people hating Crunchyroll isn't hard to come by these days posted online. Like I said in the beginning of the video, fans have been getting more and more annoyed with the company for the past few years now. However, this wave of unsatisfied users is not new. Most who voiced their opinions back then were considered more in the minority. Sure, Crunchyroll would fuck up from time to time, but so long as they provided a good quality of product in form of the online store or streaming platform, people were happy. It also helps that during the early days of Crunchyroll's career, they had built up quite a bit of goodwill with the users. You see, Crunchyroll had a slightly humble origin. The younger generation of anime watchers in the West may not know this, and I don't know many people who are around my age that remember this, but Crunchyroll started out as a pirated anime site. Oh yeah, much like Kiss Anime or watch cartoons online, Crunchyroll was known to be a place that people could enjoy anime during those days when you can only watch anime through network broadcasting like Cartoon Network, Toonami, Adult Swim, and 4Kids. Hey, no, bad, you get out of here. Get out. He knows what he did. Remember, the internet was still in its early days of its adolescence. YouTube was only about a year old when Crunchyroll first opened its digital doors to the people. You see, physical media was available but hard to get. Only specific stores like FYE and Books of Alien would hardly carry anything related to the medium, and websites that did carry them would need a credit card. Now, I don't know about you, but my mom was against putting her card on any website she didn't know or really understood. Plus, a lot of those stores and online shops may not be carrying the product you wanted, since even back then, liking anime was considered niche. Your local comic book shop may have picked up some manga and quite possibly VHS tape or DVD, but you'd honestly have better luck at a flea market than anywhere else. But again, even those are rare. At least at mine. So then you're probably asking, how'd Crunchyroll get it so big? After a while, Crunchyroll got some investing backing and went legit. They had to purge all the content on the site that wasn't licensed by them. Of course, this sudden change made some people sad, but most were on board with the idea. They thought now that Crunchyroll had some money in their pockets, the fears of the site being shut down would be over, and that they'd be able to increase the amount of anime on the website's library. At that time, things seemed pretty good. Fast forward to the present, however, and...
Still no reply at all from the Crunchyroll. No apology, no commitment to recover items, nothing. So, maybe there is a case, and maybe there is not. Or maybe I just become the whistle that never stops blowing. Either way, these abuses will be brought to light. Stay tuned.
What have you done? Scourge death.
David made this post on the 29th of October. By this point, he had not received any communications from Crunchyroll management, staff members, or anyone higher in the company. It was appearing as though his complaints were going on deaf ears, especially when a few days prior, he posted a message with an attached photo showing a package that a fan sent out to him. He says that someone had taken, opened, and laid out the items on a giveaway table so anyone could grab whatever they wanted. In the same post, he continues asking if people could return the items to him. A simple and understandable request, and to some success. And another post on the same day, he mentions how staff members located 2 of the items that was in the package sent out in the photo. While that is a small silver lining, all was still not well. David tried reaching out to some people higher up in the company, one of which is a producer. However, there was no such luck. Obviously, because of the fact that he's a prominent voice actor and he's been posting all of this on X, he's had questions pouring in at the wazoo. How could this have happened? Who's at fault? Is it the individual employees taking it on their chance to take the mail themselves, the management, or both? David, of course, would reply to these messages. For example, this poster actually added Crunchyroll asking if the employees that had taken the items were let go. David would reply essentially saying that the employees were not at fault, that it's the management that were the ones to blame. Another frequently asked question were about the details on how he came about learning that his mail had been opened and taken. This was a question I was honestly curious myself, because in his initial post he stated that this had been going on for the past 5 years, not just during his time in Crunchyroll, but during his time in Funimation as well. His response for each one, however, was the same, saying he couldn't reveal that information because it could put the individual or individuals in harm's way within the company. Another question I saw asked a lot was the actions of what David was going to do next. Would he be getting the authorities involved or filing a lawsuit? To which he did mention in a reply that he was giving some thoughts on the possibility of a lawsuit, but here's where I want to change things up from David for a moment and go over to the X-users themselves and content creators. See, before I go and finish up talking about David and what he plans on doing next, I want to talk about the situation with everyone calling what Crunchy did a federal crime or just saying that they broke the law. You see, from the very beginning when David made his post, X-users started to immediately ask and state that Crunchyroll had to have broken some laws with this, and that this was the end of Crunchyroll as we all know it. Well, to be fair, it wasn't just X-users. Like I said, content creators as well.
Which is equally bad. Again, this is a federal crime. Opening up somebody else's mail, something that is listed towards somebody else, you open it, that is a federal crime. That is a massive no-no. And it's a massive invasion of privacy.
Crunchyroll committed a crime, and not just any small crime, mail theft, aka a felony. That was not on my bingo card for this year, for 2024. Crunchyroll and their employees to commit a literal felony by stealing someone's mail, aka their fan mail, their private mail.
Situation for what it's worth, it's a pretty scummy thing if true, and if it is true, there's potentially some legal and civil penalties that Crunchyroll might be facing.
Okay, I want to start off by saying a few things about the content creators we have here. Firstly, no hate towards these guys. In the good name of transparency, I'll let you know that they did mention in the videos that David's posts were legit, and that further investigation would be needed. Rev specifically even brings up reasons onto why it may not be against the law due to a case in which the person receives mail. That being, if a place of business is being used as a location for you to receive packages and mail that have been addressed in your name, giving companies provocation to open up your mail.
As they cite here, some employers do have some ability to open up your mail if it's sent to their place of business.
But then he strongly implied that the incident could have been mail theft near the end of his video. Regardless though, I would recommend checking out their videos on this subject. There will be a link down below in my description. And while I don't agree with how they both worded and presented their videos, I will still recommend their channels. I like Rev, I enjoy his content, I think he's pretty informative too. I check out chibi reviews every so often, and this is actually the first video I've watched of Otaku Spirit. I'll have to check out more of his content down the line, but bouncing off of my point from Rev, so we have a claim being Crunchyroll management or staff members went and opened mail that was addressed to David Wald. This action, by all accounts from said creators and random X users, was an illegal act, a federal crime. Let's see how that federal law is worded and written to get a better clue on it though. This is the Legal Information Institute, and this is the US Code 1702, to which most people are referring when speaking about the subject of mail theft, specifically in David Wald's case. Now, before I go into this, I know some have spoken about the state laws as well. Some have used California and Texas laws because these are the places that Crunchyroll houses its main branches. However, states will usually defer to federal law in cases like this. Now, I want to make things clear, this doesn't make Crunchyroll innocent. Remember, we are speaking about Crunchyroll if they broke any federal laws, not if what they did was improper or immoral. But I always want to make sure we're covering all our bases when talking about subjects like this. It's important, and it's important to keep the credibility of the actual creators, well, credible. Especially with fan bases as large as these. Now, people get things wrong. Your favorite content creator get things wrong. Hell, I might be getting some things wrong as I'm talking about this. I like to believe I did as much research as I could to talk about this correctly, but, you know, I can overlook some things. And that is why we should always have someone to keep us accountable if we do get something wrong, whether that be our fan base, our friends, our family, what have you. It's important to check these things and make sure you're getting the correct amount of information out there, so this way people can be well informed. With that being said, US Code 1702 states the following. Actually, you know what? I'll need some help with this. I am not a lawyer. I definitely felt like people misunderstood and misinterpreted what was written here, but I wasn't entirely sure. What can I say? Sometimes it pays to wait on a situation, and I'm so glad I did, because more qualified people than me came out and looked into this, and it just so happens they made videos. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this man on screen, but for those who aren't, let me introduce you. This is Legal Mindset. Legal Mindset is a YouTube lawyer content creator who you may have guessed covers topics involving anything related to legal issues, incidents, court cases, and more. He is an attorney with years of experience reading through, drawing up, and revising company contracts, documents, etc., etc. But here, I'll let him take over to explain the federal law in question.
So when you look at this and you look at what happened to David Wald, I think most people off the top of their head would think that this was violated, because they would look at it and say, well, this is a situation where, there was a letter or postcard or package, right? So some of them were letters, some of them were packages, some of them probably postcards too. And it was not given to him. And because it was not given to him, they're guilty of this crime. It's not that simple. Because the thing is that the law is not just exactly how it's written, it's how things are interpreted. And how the judges have applied the case law in the interpretations of what the words mean. So courts have gone into these words and said, what do they mean? They don't mean what you think they mean. And there's two things. First of all, the main word here is actually not person, because person is, remember, corporations are people too, right? The main word here is actually delivered. And when mail has been delivered. Okay? So this only applies to mail that is opened before it's been delivered. Once it's delivered, they have no responsibility for who opens it after it's delivered.
So, from what Legal Mindset is saying is so long as the package or mail arrived at the destination that the US Postal Service has on their records is delivered to the location in which all the items are said to be addressed to, and make it to said location, it is out of the US Postal Service's hands. So, because of how the law is interpreted, this would not be a federal crime in the eyes of a judge. That sounds terrible. It's very frustrating, especially since many of us can relate to David's situation. We've all had packages that we've either purchased or were gifted be delivered in a manner which not to our liking. Either the item in question was broken on the way there, it got lost in the mail somewhere, or just like David, it was stolen. So hearing that this had been happening for the past 5 years in the company he works for really set this story more into motion, and this is why it was covered by so many people even outside the anime sphere. That and some people just take the opportunity to shit on Crunchyroll when they can. Going away from that for a moment, Legal Mindset then starts talking about why this is not a federal crime, and it has to do with Crunchyroll's legal team, or to be more specific, the team that draws up the contracts for its employees and its actors that do the voice acting, of course.
And here's the next thing. I guarantee you, why? Because I wrote these things, that there is a policy, one of those hundreds of pages of policies, which most people don't read. Because just like that human centipede episode of South Park, it can't read, right? It's interesting because the policies will say that that they can open the mail, right? They can open the mail. And they're going to warn you, hey, if you get something sent to the job, we have permission to open it. That's for liability purposes. So they're going to cover the rest on that. So they're double covered. Number one, courts are going to interpret it that way. Number two, you signed off on it. And you've approved it.
Now, of course, this is still in the actual speculation that Crunchyroll has some sort of policy like that written in or embedded in the contract that David probably would have signed. I personally don't know. Only David and other employees that work in Crunchyroll would know. However, like he says, Legal Mindset did draft off these contractors for the policy, so he would have a more hands-on experience with knowing whether or not a company would do that. And like he said, most likely they would, to protect their ass. I mean, why wouldn't they? If they have the ability to, and much like a normal person wouldn't do, that would be read the actual policy in general, or even have a lawyer they have on retainer to actually read it for them.
You're telling me that every time you guys download an update for iTunes, you read the entire terms and conditions?
Of course.
Well, how do you know if you agree to something if you don't read it?
Now again, just to reiterate, I don't know whether or not David did or didn't, or if Crunchyroll does or does not. It all really depends on what more information comes out later on down the line, if any at all. If more voice actors or employees come out to start talking about the situation, then that's how we'll kind of find out. Only time can really tell. At this moment in time, I'm going to make the assumption that this was in an actual document that was written up, and David of course signed it, because again, I have to do the same thing for my place of work. You probably have to do the same thing for your place of work. We have to do that for everything in the world now, that there are terms of service we must agree to and adhere to, rules laid out before us, so this way we may access the things we like to do every day, whether that be video games, watching an anime, using an app for some other reason. They're going to be always in your life now. There's never going to be a moment in time now where there isn't a terms of service, policy change, or what have you that we have to read and then click the little button and say we did. Now, Legal Mindset was not the only content creator on YouTube that is a lawyer who covered this topic on their channel. Let me introduce you to Ava. Ava is a PMG tuber much like myself. However, unlike myself, she actually practiced law in California. Her content thus far is not too dissimilar than that of Legal Mindset, whereas they both go over court cases, trial verdicts, online drama that involves possible crimes coming from individuals, or in this case, companies.
The problem we have here is David Wald himself, in the first tweet, said
If you sent me anything care of Funimation or Crunchyroll, that's going to be very important here. It's important because this establishes that not all instances of mail handling violate the law. Intent and authorization play crucial roles. Now let's consider the specific case of David Wald. To understand whether any laws were broken, we need to clarify the circumstances under which Wald's mail was opened. There are several key points to consider here. 1. If David Wald consented and provided Funimation or Crunchyroll the ability to manage his mail, they are likely operating within the legal boundaries. They did, and he left it in the care of Funimation or Crunchyroll. Business practices as well. In many cases, companies, including employee arrangements like contracts and such, companies handling mail for employees or contractors may have policies in place that allow them to manage correspondence related to their work, including fan mail or business-related communications that need to be handled. Assuming Wald had given appropriate authorizations, which he did, Crunchyroll and Funimation would not be violating Section 1702. Instead, they would be acting within their rights as caretakers of that mail.
Hopefully, from both Legal Mindset and Ava's videos, this has helped you put things into perspective. I definitely couldn't have articulated it any better than them, but ultimately, this is what my conclusion after reading the law and looking at what people online were saying when referring to the claims in David's case against Crunchyroll. Now, even after going through all this, talking about the possibilities of a lawsuit being made and or if filed by David, the story didn't end there, because after being ignored by the management at Crunchyroll this entire time, he decided to pack up his things and leave the company. On November 11th, David posted this to his X account, letting his followers and anime fans alike that he would not be reprising his role of Gajeel and Fairy Tail, adding to the post that he will be speaking about the abuse and working conditions he and most likely others have suffered while being employed at Crunchyroll. With that post, he shared a link to his new Twitch account. Now currently this page is empty. There are no VODs and nothing scheduled. Some have speculated that David is going through with the lawsuit and was asked to keep quiet by his lawyers. I don't know, so I won't dig too deeper into the matter. The only thing new that David has posted on his X account currently is a link to his new Blue Sky account. I'm guessing that's where a majority of his posting will be done from this point forward. As of right now, we'll have to see if anything develops out of everything, though I can say I doubt any real harm will be coming to Crunchyroll. A story like this, while important in the anime community, will never break through the mainstream. Even though anime and video games have grown popular in the past 2 decades, they're still looked at by the mainstream as unimportant or even childish. Not to mention that we have people sometimes crawling out of their holes in an attempt to censor anime, or people in the games industry trying to destroy your favorite companies from the inside by pushing or peddling their forced agenda onto you. And if you call them out on their bullshit, you're labeled an ist, a phobe, or an ism. Ha! Don't you just love the modern age? Whew, okay, we've reached the end of the video, guys. Sorry this one took a lot longer to make. As you can clearly see, I put a lot more time into this one than I did my past videos. For my next video, I'm going to try to shoot for a short amount of time. I still want to, research it as much as I can, but I want to try to, make sure I get all the talking points focused in on one specific point. Or maybe not. It really depends on how I feel. I can sometimes want a video to go for about 8 minutes, but then there's so much I want to talk about that I just extend that time frame. But like I said in the beginning of this video, I wanted to go over why I haven't been uploading and why this video took so long. So initially after the last video, I had explained in a post that Milton had just hit. That situation got taken care of. Still looking into some repairs of some of my house, but then my tooth decided to break on me, and I had to get a crown put in and do a root canal. However, that took a lot longer than needed. I needed to wait over a week for them to actually get the crown and everything. After that was finished, I was in a lot of pain, so I wasn't able to really talk, so I didn't want to record anything, but then that was taken care of. But then sadly, almost a week or so after that, literally Halloween day, as I was working on stuff and working everything, one of my dogs passed away, and I got severely sad. I got incredibly depressed. It's always hard when you lose a pet, and so I had had him since he was a puppy. He was a grumpy old man, a little Chihuahua. He lived a full life, and he just had a lot of health problems. And I figured he wasn't gonna live for another year or so, but I was hoping he was gonna get another whole year with us. He's gonna be able to see Thanksgiving, Christmas, and everything. But sadly, life had other plans, and it took him, and it is what it is. So that got me a little depressed. But then I started to get motivation back, and I started working on stuff again. So I'm now back at it, working on stuff, and ready to continue to upload as I intended to. So that's kind of why like my production kind of slowed down. And also, like, I'm a little lazy, you know. Sometimes I can be very motivated, but then random times I'm like, oh, but I want to play video games, I want to watch anime, you know, I want to do all that stuff. So thank you all again. I appreciate the subs, I appreciate the likes, I appreciate the comments. All great. Thank you so much. I'll just leave it at that, guys. Thanks again. See you around. Have a wonderful day, and stay safe out there.